Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Riffhard podcast. My guest today is Isaac Delahaye from the band Epica, who have a new album out called Aspiral or Aspiral. I actually don't know how to pronounce it, but it came out April 11th, 2025. That means it's out now. And this is a great conversation about how to combine metal with orchestra and working your guitar parts into that, because it's actually really difficult to write parts that either stand out or don't also completely destroy the mix, and that kind of work and don't distract from everything, but are also heavy and catchy. Like there's a lot of boxes on that checklist that you have to hit when you're writing for an orchestral metal band. So if you're interested in that, you're going to enjoy this episode. Here goes. Isaac, welcome to the Riffhard podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. One thing I have wondered a lot actually about playing guitar in a band like Epica or in Epica, is as a guitar player, I think that it's one of the hardest styles to figure out where to fit in. And this is just my impression, and from having done some, my band also has orchestral stuff and a lot going on. Sometimes it's very difficult to find a riff that works in terms that it doesn't step on the orchestra, it doesn't step on the vocals, but it's still heavy and it's still recognizable and you can still hear. It's like a real challenge when you have that much stuff going on. So to me, that's what I find to be challenging about this multi-layered orchestrated metal. But I'm wondering for you, what, playing in Epica or a band like Epica, what do you find to be the biggest challenge as a guitar player?
Yeah, well, probably the same thing. It's not an easy thing. Um, but then again, it is easy. I mean, if you look at it from a pure guitaristic point of view, then you might be thinking like, oh, I need to do more. But a lot of times it's like if not even with the orchestration by itself, but also with vocals. It's the same thing as if you wouldn't have the orchestration and then the verse has vocals, be it grunts or whatever it is. You kind of want to let that shine and not take over on the guitars mostly. It depends on the song, but it's the same with the orchestration. If you have a heavy orchestrated piece, either you follow that with the guitar or you just back off and play the chords or the chord progression, whatever it is, and just spice it up with a little hint of orchestration here and there, I would say. That's how I would put it, very black and white. Um,
But I think the art is, even if you are playing it more like an accompaniment, the art is in still arranging the part, because if you're just playing
yeah,
chords, there's several ways to where if you just play the chords to where you can still swallow
yeah.
everything else. And then there's other ways where it's like just the right amount and it also still keeps the momentum going. So
Yeah,
there's
well,
an
that's
art to that.
I guess, but I would say that that's where the little hints of the orchestration would come in. Like
Hmm.
you always listen to the melody that sticks out, right? What is the main melody, and then how does that translate to a guitar riff?
Hmm.
So even if you're doing, let's say, three bars of chords, and then the fourth bar you do some turnaround thing, which is following what's happening on top of that with violence or stuff like that, then you pretty much have a solid base. And then obviously drums come in, bass come in, you kind of have a groove going on. So even in the chords, you can then do a gallop or chugging, whatever it needs, the groove you're having at that point in time. And then obviously the bigger picture, like what is the song dictating? Is it a heavy, faster song, then you can do a lot more. Is it a softer song or just like where vocals are really prominent and that needs to be empowered, let's say, then you might just go for quarter notes, maybe with chunks, or I mean, it's always different. Every song is different, and a different approach. Of course, you have your input, your style, your influences, all of that. So there's no golden rule to that, but what I always find is that if you're honest with the music, and that sounds very weird in a way, but if you just honestly listen to what the song dictates you, you kind of know. You
Hmm.
know that, oh, I'm overdoing it, or I'm taking away the attention of the orchestration or the vocals or whatever is happening. And that, of course, is not only on guitar, it's the same with the orchestration, it's the same with the vocals. You can keep layering vocals as much as you like, but sometimes you also need to leave some space for the rest of the band or the drums. You know, you can play a fill in every beat, but that's not gonna help the song.
No.
So it's the same thing. Like sometimes, and also within the song, you need some dynamics. So even in a very heavy song, every now and then you want to just take, lower gears and then let something else take over, and then you can go full force again.
I know what you mean by being honest with the song. I don't know about you, but whenever there's a part that's not right, but for some reason I haven't gotten rid of it yet, I ask myself, am I just getting attached to this because I wrote it,
Yeah.
or because I'm used to it?
Yeah.
Like, is it actually helping? Will I miss it? If I get rid of it, am I even going to remember it tomorrow? And
Yeah,
usually the answer
that.
is no.
Yeah. Usually it is, and if you still don't dare to be that honest and you put it on the table, another band member will tell you, like,
Yeah.
I love the song, but this part still needs some attention. And I think I'm lucky enough to be in a band where that is possible without a big confrontation or something. Like we always speak our minds, and sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes it's not easy to get like stuff like that said to you if you're the songwriter, or you have to think about it, or either way, you kind of have to have another look at that part. But always is it a part that you already had a slight doubt or maybe a big doubt, but you just put it on the table to see what other people think of it, and then it always comes to the surface. That's what I've noticed over the years.
Yeah.
And that also means that because you know that whenever I think something about another song that someone else wrote, I'll just say my opinion, and because that might help the song eventually. And also over the years, I've had a lot of people from smaller bands also sending over demo stuff and ask for my opinion. And in the beginning, I would be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, cool stuff. Keep going," like to be supportive.
Yeah.
But that never helped them, right? So
No,
I
that's a
kind of
tough one.
at some point, I thought, let's just be honest. And every time again, when I was honest about what I heard, they came back like, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, you're right. And we need to figure that out, or we need to work on that. So it always helps. And in most of the cases, people already know. And that's the same in Epica. We already know if something is like not spot on.
Sometimes you just need someone to help push you past the,
Yeah.
over the edge, I guess, on an idea. All right. Before we get back to this episode, I want to take a minute to talk about Riffhard, riffhard.com, not the Riffhard podcast, because this podcast is actually tied to our online school, Riffhard. And if you're new here, it's the world's best online school for modern metal guitarists. We've got hundreds of lessons from guitar players such as Javier Reyes, Jason Richardson, Wes Hawk, Dan Sugarman, Miles Dimitri Baker. Man, I could just keep on going on. Aaron Marshall from Intervals, Mike Stringer of Spirit Box. I'm reading now because I don't want to leave anybody off. Dean Lamb of Arcspire. It just goes on and on. It's like all the best of the best. And you get tons more than just lessons with them. You get instant access when you join, but there's also all kinds of challenges. Like once a month, we do something like 10-day down picking challenge or a 10-day tremolo picking challenge or a 10-day alternate picking challenge where we really guide you through the lessons and make sure that everybody is getting better. We're not just giving you these videos and sending you out into the wilderness to fend for yourself. We are right there with you. We also do 6 songwriting challenges. Like we have a monthly one called King of the Riff, where we give you a brief, like write a Spartan war anthem or write a technical death metal song with like some criteria. And there's prizes that include guitars and cables and all kinds of cool gear. And we also have private Facebook and Discord communities of like mind and supportive people, no assholes. That's really, really important to include. Now, with Riffhard, you also get a subscription to Nail the Mix. They live under the same site. So in Nail the Mix, you get to learn how to mix metal. You also get access to Buster Otoholm's Beginner's Guide to Recording Metal. So if you're just playing guitar and trying to record yourself, you have a band and you want to make demos for your band members, or you want to make your own demos, but you just can't get them to sound anything but garbage, or you just can't get past the starting gate, it's too complicated, we've got you covered. Buster Otoholm will show you how to do it. And also, if you want to take it further and actually learn how to mix, there's no place better than Nail the Mix over at URM Academy, and that's all included with Riffhard subscription. All right, so if that sounds interesting, you want to check it out, go to riffhard.com. I'll see you there, and let's get back into this episode. And I've noticed actually, especially when giving feedback to like people just emailing you or people in smaller bands or whatever, asking for feedback, that's where you really realize there's a big difference between constructive criticism and being an asshole.
Yeah.
There's a big, well, a lot of people confuse the two. I've known people who will be assholes about it, and then you'll be like, why are you being an asshole? And they'll be like, oh, I'm just being professional. I'm just learn how to take feedback. It's like, no, man, this is not feedback you're giving. You're just being an asshole. And we have an attitude actually in my band that feedback is great, because that's really your opportunity to get better. Because obviously we all hit like this weird limit where you can't see past a riff, or you can't see past a part, or you can't imagine how it could be different, even though you kind of know it needs to be. And that's where the feedback of others really, really is helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And also looking at my situation in the band, like sometimes you have a demo from someone else. Let's say Mark is writing a demo and he's kind of stuck, or he doesn't know, or for him it's like finished, this is how far I got. And then he sends it over to me, like, maybe you can do your take on it. And sometimes it flips the whole song upside down. Like the end result can be a well, not completely different song, but riffs change, maybe even grooves change, arrangement change. Like, it's not because you present something to the band that it needs to be like that eventually. And so also there, it's a matter of, here's my take on it, and it's not like I send them back my take and be like, this is way better and this is what we should do. It's more like, with the information that I got, this is what I would, push back to you. And then he, as the original songwriter of that song, he can pick out whatever he likes. And then he might keep the verse as it was in his version and change the chorus as I have it, or
Hmm.
just take some snippets out of there, and then we go back and forth that way. Obviously, now I'm talking about just, let's say, Mark and me, but could also be that other people are involved, or that it's the same thing with the vocals or whatnot. And that's a cool process. It's not like, I guess it's similar to what you would do in a rehearsal space, but Epica is a band that is based in 4 different countries in Europe. So it's not that easy for us to just meet up weekly, let's say, and write a new song. So we kind of have to do it through our home studios and digitally most of the time. Although for the new album, we did quite a lot of writing camps where we got together, which was very nice and helps a lot in that process. Um, but yeah, it's like here's an idea, and then people change it, and then you see if you like it better or not. You can sleep on it, you can rethink the whole thing a million times until everyone is satisfied. Because the reason someone would change something is probably because that person thinks it's not 100% what it could be
Yeah,
yet.
totally. At
And
what point do the vocals enter the equation?
for this album, they came in really early. Like we just had basic ideas. The first writing camp we had was, well, we were still pretty much in the Omega album cycle. So we had some ideas, but not necessarily finished songs, just snippets here and there. And the good thing is we have 5 songwriters. Everyone except for Simone is writing songs with different influences, with different playing different instruments. So your focus is different, I would say. And then we put that on the table, and Simone was there as well from day one. So whatever was, let's say, developed the most, those were the songs that we would start with for vocals. And obviously, if you're right, you sometimes already have a vocal line, so you can present it to her and see if that fits her timbre, or if it needs to be transposed, stuff like that.
Is it one of those things where it's not really real until you know it works with her, for her?
Yeah. I mean, if
Yeah.
you can come up with a brilliant line in your DAW session, let's say, but it isn't until she is, even if it's just fake lyrics, but it isn't until she's actually singing that line where okay, it's good or it should be changed. And the change pretty much always comes, most of the times comes very naturally. Would be like, oh, this note is too high or too low, or we need to build up a little more to
Hmm.
go into the pre-chorus and chorus. So it's not a very hard process, I would say, because you kind of instantly know if it's right or not. If it's not right, the stuff that you already came up with, you just, because I would, or all of us would actually go in without the vocal line that we have in mind, and then be like, this is the song and I have something in mind, but just do something. And we'd come up with a couple of things on the spot. Obviously, she already heard the demo thing, so she kind of knows the idea that's on the shelf. But yeah, and then we take it from there. And if that doesn't fit, or if it actually is similar to what you already had, then you can kind of combine all these ideas and say like, this is what I had, and I like what you had here. Let's combine those. Or you start from scratch, or after, because these writing camps were always for 1 week, and then we had, let's say, 2 months break in between, do another writing camp, and so on. So the in between part is very important. You go there, you're very focused for a week with the 6 of us, and at a later point, also our producer came in. And then you take everything home, all the new information, and you can work. This is my home studio, so I would work here. on those ideas, not only vocals. Like I would also ask the drummer, like I programmed some drums, can you maybe go over that and see what you would do? And then he'd program it so it actually sounds like him. I still
Hmm.
don't know how he's doing it, but it's like the little, I'm not a drummer, so I just do some basics and then he kind of yeah, goes into detail on that, and then I can pull that into my session again, and that's how you kind of build the song towards pre-production, which we do in the studio, but that's like months after that whole process. So yeah, the vocals this time around were there from the start, and that hasn't always been like that. So I would say on this album, it's also a huge difference. It breathes more, there's more space for the vocals, and the reason is very simple. If you don't have the actual vocal on your demo, you always want to add stuff because it doesn't sound like it's a
Yeah.
finished thing. And that's, yeah,
It's
that,
very true. I'm actually in the middle of building a songwriting template for my band's next album, and
okay.
this template, what I'm doing is I'm trying to make it sound as mixed as possible for the writing,
Yeah.
because of that exact thing. I feel like with demos, sometimes we try to, like, the way they sound, like small and kind of shitty. Like we try to make up for it by adding more and more and more, like try to add layers and just like, or make them faster than they need to be,
Yeah.
anything to make up for the fact that it just doesn't sound that good.
Yeah.
Like I'm guilty of it. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying the experiment of, well, this already sounds like a record. It's already
Yeah.
huge. First of all, there's not that much space left to do crazy stuff. And so I'm going to have to be much more selective about what goes in. That's my theory, at least.
Yeah.
I'm going to test it. But because of what you just said with like demos before you were saying in the context of vocal not being there. But for me, it's more like it sounds, the sound's not there yet, and so I'm
Mm.
trying to make up for the fact that it doesn't sound full by
Yeah.
adding layers and adding layers. But if it sounds full, maybe the layers aren't quite as necessary, because I always end up in the mix where the mixer will end up muting like half the shit we brought in anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, but true. But usually our demos already sound quite okay-ish. So I wouldn't say that's the issue. It's just like, yeah, because I do the same. Like, let's say this is album 9. So if I would start writing for album 10, obviously I'm gonna load the latest I did.
Yes.
So it's been years and years of fine-tuning sounds and all of that. So the demos sound pretty okay-ish, I would say. So that's not the issue. It's just like, well, it's not death metal that we do, although there's grunting and all of that. But in general, it's with Simone on vocals. She has a whole range, of course, and we have the choirs and the grunts there, and
There's a lot.
there's a lot going on, which can flavor everything. And as long as you don't have the flavor, you kind of miss it because it's not there yet. And that's
Hmm.
more what I'm referring to.
That
Although
makes
the shitty demo doesn't help, of course.
so when when you're writing the flavorless version,
Yeah.
um, so what is it? Just guitar, bass, drums in the first?
Well, I would also orchestrate, but of course I'm not a wizard if it comes to that. I use very standard sounds and
But just to
or
have something.
yeah, to have something. Same with the drums, I just know that when I will pass it on to our drummer and he goes over it, it's gonna sound way better.
Yeah.
So I don't worry working on it for a week. And actually, the same with the guitars. I know what I want, and it doesn't need to be perfect. I just want to have the vibe of it, and that's enough. But just face it. You can be the best band out there. If your singer is shitty, it's gonna be a
You're
bad.
fucked.
you're fucked, right?
Yeah.
And so everything is dependent on a vocal line and on and that performance. So you just know that you'll have to leave space for that, or that you have to wait until that's, let's say we've had really great songs that didn't make it on an album because the vocal line just was not what it should be.
Hmm.
Whereas the other way around, let's say you have a brilliant vocal line and maybe there's not much happening in the music and it's still a great song, if you know what
I
I
mean,
mean.
that's sounds to me like the right decision was
Yeah,
made.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course, because 99% of the people will just listen to the vocals.
You
And
know,
if they like it, they'll like the band or the song. And if they don't like it,
I feel like, man, even people who are even like musicians and producers and who listen deeply to the arrangements and the playing and can appreciate when the music's really good. Still, if the vocals aren't good, like they probably won't like it, or they'll probably
yeah,
say, "Yeah, the music's great, but the vocals ruins it for me." And they'll be able
yeah,
to acknowledge, "Yeah, the music's great, but it's still it's like you have a big vat of soup, giant vat of soup, and it's the best soup ever." But if a bird flies by and just drops one tiny little shit in it, and let's just say it's just like one, or a goat, like you drop a little goat shit in it, just a
that's
tiny,
even
tiny,
better.
tiny little pellet, like
Yeah,
the whole thing's ruined. It's just
kind
ruined,
of. Yeah.
and
Or you-
it could be the best soup. So I kind of see it like that. Like if you have a bad vocal, it doesn't matter how good the music is. Like
yeah,
it could be the best song musically ever written. It's like it's ruined.
I love the analogy. Analogy, or how you say that?
Analogy. Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, that exactly that, you know.
yeah. It's just
So
you may as well throw it away.
yeah. Well, you better.
Yeah, yeah. It
I
was.
actually had a good friend of mine. He was the guitar player, the second guitar player in my first band ever. And he always argued with his brother over the soup because he loved soup. And they would actually turn or spit in it until the other one would say, no, I don't want to have any more, because they were so in
Oh
love with
wow.
their mom's soup. So it reminds me of that story.
It's like how disgusting can I make your soup
Yeah,
before you won't eat it anymore?
exactly. But then you
Wow,
have to
that's
eat the
wild.
soup with spit of you and your
Fuck
brother.
that. That's wild.
Good times.
Yeah, I wonder how much it took.
Well, I think it was around, let's say, 10 rounds,
Oh my god! And
10
was
of each.
the mom made the soup?
The mom made the soup. Yeah.
So was she aware of this? Of
The
the
mom was right there. Yeah.
so if they only spat once or twice, would that mean your soup sucks? Like
Well,
would she get insulted if they only spat a couple times?
well, I've spent a lot of years with him, and I think that was the least of her problems.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. I'm just thinking like she would, if they went like 15 rounds, then she can she can go to bed that night knowing she made an amazing soup.
Exactly.
But if only one or two rounds, and
Yeah.
she might be like, "Why? What was wrong
Yeah.
with it?"
It's a good measurement.
Yeah. Don't try it at a restaurant though.
You know,
So you tried working, well, not tried. You worked with how do I say his name? I always get it wrong. With Joost.
Joost. Yeah.
Joost. This who is one of my favorites. Is it your first time working with him?
No, we've done, let's say, I think this is the fourth album with him.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. And we've done multiple projects like in between albums. So yeah, we've been working with him since ooh, I think, yeah, 10 years or more. Yeah, great guy. And yeah.
I love his attention to detail.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he's a cool guy. And one thing about him is usually metal mixers don't really, they don't really understand the orchestration side of it.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know if
agree.
you've ever experienced this,
Yes.
but okay, yeah, you know what I was about to ask. Um, I've experienced it, and I know so many people who have. Is just for people listening who don't know, if you take an orchestral metal band or any type of metal band that has elements in it that are not traditional, like a lot of synth or anything like that, to a metal mixer, they could be the best metal mixer on earth who make the best sounding records. If they're not used to that, they're going to treat it like it's just like a background element. And they'll make
True.
very strong arguments for why they shouldn't turn the guitars down at all. And they're right. They're right. Like for them, for what they're saying, like they're absolutely right that
Yeah.
if we start changing the balance, a lot of the it's going to be less heavy. Like the power is going to be gone. Like this
Yeah.
is metal. Like blah blah blah. Like they make, and I've heard this from multiple guys. So like,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of condensing this all down, like what I've heard from multiple people into like one character. But since I know about mixing, I know that like they are correct, but it's not something where I think where they go wrong is that it's not the only correct thing that can exist. So there's another correct way to mix
Yeah.
a song like that, where you still get power, but you're bringing the power from other elements. So
Mhm.
they're correct that if the way they have it mixed, they turn down the guitars, they're going to lose the power. But there's a way to do it to where you can get the power from other elements, but that's where really understanding the orchestration side of it or understanding synth comes in handy.
Yeah.
Because so for instance, I don't know if you're familiar with Mick Gordon or the Doom soundtrack, in the video game Doom.
No, I'm totally not into video games
I,
at
I
all.
I'm not either, but the Mick Gordon is a great composer.
Mhm.
And the Doom soundtrack, you should check it out. It like came out in like 2016. It kind of it's like one of the most influential things to come out that affected modern metal.
All
It's
right.
it's it's basically like Meshuggah crossed with Slipknot crossed with Nine Inch Nails. Uh, in
Sounds good.
and it's super catchy. I guess it's super catchy, and it got really really big. Like there's a lot of people who are just fans of his as a result. And he's a genius. But anyways, my point being that the mix on it is super fucking heavy. Like it's heavy, 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 but it's like very synth heavy also. But there's no lack of guitars. Like there's riffs.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like Slipknot riffs or Meshuggah
Mm.
riffs. Like those riffs are prominent. It's like metal, but there's
Yeah.
also nasty synth throughout that's also prominent, and it's like proof right there that it is possible to do it. You just have to approach it. You have to approach it with a different mindset than a
Yeah.
traditional metal mix. And so, back long way of saying that what I like about Joost,
Yoast.
we're about to have him on Nail the Mix
Oh, cool. Yeah.
and with you guys actually, but like and I can't and I still can't pronounce his name, but like he his understanding of more than just metal, I think really brings a lot to the table.
Yeah. I mean, he is a keyboard player, so he knows a
Yep.
lot about sounds, always has been sort of interested in that. But he's also a ranger, so he knows the dynamics of an orchestra. He
Hmm.
knows the dynamics of a choir, because he has been writing stuff for orchestras and so I mean, Same if I say I write a song and I add a violin, if I want it to be louder, I'll just put it louder. But if you want to have an orchestra play it louder than you want it, then you need more violins. And so you need to know how many you need for a certain, if you want to have it at mezzo forte, let's say, then you need so many of these and so many of that. And so he has all that knowledge about the actual orchestration. And I think, and also the placement is the same with a drum kit. If you don't put everything in the middle, so you want to widen up the drum kit, the same with an orchestra. You just put it pretty much where they are sitting, in front of the conductor. And yeah, if you said it right, like for people who don't really have that knowledge and just approach it as a sound, then it's just a matter of, is it loud enough, or it's a whole different thing, a whole different idea of looking at what you're doing. And I mean, in Epica, we are a metal band with an orchestra, let's say. We just don't bring it on every show,
Mhm.
but on the albums there's an actual orchestra. And yeah, I mean, if you would have an orchestra play a hard hit, it is, I remember as a kid I saw the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven and saw that live. It was so
Powerful.
impactful, powerful, man,
Yeah.
like goosebumps and everything, and like loud. And so the dynamics of a orchestra is just massive, from really soft to really loud, and everything in between. So there's so much stuff you can do with that. So I agree that even if you would turn down something else, you can still make it very powerful. And
Man,
yeah, he's handling that in a brilliant way, where everything is, yeah, has its spot. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it's still either, uh, you have to kill your darlings sometimes, right?
yes.
Like, what do you want to choose? You choose more the orchestral side of a certain part, or more the band part of it. Sometimes it's hard in certain parts to really, well, you know, you and I could have a different opinion on it, on the same thing, right? So it's just choosing
Yes.
what side you want to choose. So it's not like it's all a walk in the park on that department, but yeah, I think every time again he's doing a brilliant job. He goes into detail not only on whatever it is he's doing, but also in detail about planning of the album, the recordings, all of that. He's very meticulous, and sticks to deadlines and stuff like that, which is very important in a production like this. It's not like we go in with a four-piece band and a couple of days later we come out with a new album. It's like months and months of
Hmm.
preparation, and months of um, recordings, and then mixing and the whole thing. It takes ages for a Epica album to uh, to finish a project like that. And he's always like very helpful in any possible way. And yeah, um, he's great.
Total package. It's
Yeah, man.
well, I was just when you're thinking about Beethoven's Ninth, I just remembered as a kid watching my dad conduct Mahler's Second Symphony, and I think they it had like five orchestral bass drums on stage, and then like um and brass chorales up in the balconies, and then also for like a certain moment in the finale, like there was like multiple brass chorales also like in the sides
Oh
in
wow,
the audience,
surround.
like like up in the balcony, and then also from the sides with a full choir, an extended sized orchestra, and like literally like five orchestral bass drums where all hit it at the same time. It sounded
Yeah,
huge,
it
huge.
must have sounded huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But that's the thing, like in the past uh, we had a point in time where we send out a song or recordings to a couple of mixers, and they could just do their mix, and then we could see like what came out, and most of them were like you said, like you just have a metal band, and then somewhere in the back you couldn't even hear it was you. If you would have said it's programmed, I would have believed you. You couldn't even hear the details
mhm.
of an orchestra anymore. So, and not saying it was bad if you listen to it. It's just like, why did we just spend a shitload of money on an orchestra if what comes out is just something that sounds like it's done on a keyboard, you know? So it was not the sound that we wanted then, but not to say they did a bad job. They just looked at it in a different way. So,
No, these
um,
are I'm talking about some of the best mixers. Like, and
yeah, yeah,
it's a matter of they have their taste. They have their
yeah.
taste, and I mean that's why they are successful. Is their point of view on music works for a lot of bands,
Oh yeah,
but not for
definitely.
everything. Obviously, it can't.
Yeah.
Not everybody is a great fit for everybody,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
or nobody can be a great fit for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, it- like so we had Jens Bogren mix our last album, and I think he's one of the few who understands how to combine lots of stuff. But I still
Yeah.
went to stay with him for a couple of weeks because there's a million when you have a lot of layers, there's a million different ways you could interpret what needs to be loudest or what
Yeah.
direction to take it. Like if you decide that, like, if you have an orchestra and you also have synth and lead guitars and rhythm guitars, and your taste could guide you towards something where some element that's not supposed to be the lead becomes the lead in the mix. And I
Mhm.
remember on one of the first songs, we have this chorus of the song has in the lead guitars, it has two guitars playing the same part, like this arpeggiated, like sad sounding part, an octave apart, and then there's a couple of synths that are doubling it. One of the
Yeah.
synths kind of sounds a little 80s, but it was meant to be underneath the two guitars and the one trippy sounding synth, just to give it a little bit of it gives it a little bit of like a nastier sound when you blend all four of them. But
Yeah.
he heard it more like a radio
The 80s
metal.
are back.
Well, not necessarily. Like if you think of like a Nightwish single with like a big chorus that you'd hear on the radio with like a synth line that's like super catchy, like something like that you'd hear
Okay, yeah, yeah.
like the popular radio metal in Europe, like with like a really catchy synth line
Yeah.
that this is not dark, almost happy sounding. Not even Nightwish. I'm just imagining a European metal band with like a really catchy chorus on the radio,
Yeah.
where there's a synth, and like that's kind of what it sounded like. It sounded
Yeah, I
great.
gotcha.
It's just not the
Not what
right,
you want.
not
Yeah.
what we wanted. But like it was not. There was nothing wrong with it, and if we were that kind of band, it would have been amazing. And I think that anytime you go in with that many layers, if you're not working directly with the mixer, that's what can happen, because they're just going to do what comes naturally to them.
Yeah. Yeah, the
So
same with I think it was the first album we did with Yost. So he was recording the whole thing and over did all the overview and preparations and stuff like that. But the mix was done by Jacob Hansen. And
who's also great.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
she's tremendous.
Yeah, but I remember that we flew Jost out later on after hearing the first mix because we had the idea that, we recorded one song, one Epica song, if it's like with all the stuff we have going on, it could easily be up to close to 1,000 tracks, you know.
Hmm.
So there's so much stuff going on and so much layering,
That's
and
insane, by the way.
it is insane. But you know, if you only take like a choir and you
Yeah.
double it, and you have backing vocals and main vocals, and you know all the different drum tracks, of course, and so it's insane. But it's in our orchestral world, it's kind of what it is, I would say.
No, it
But
makes
then,
sense. It makes sense.
yeah, so I mean, at that point, we thought like either we go back and forth commenting like we need more of this or that, or we just send in Joost, who has a perfect overview of what is recorded, the way we envision it to sound like, and stuff like that. So, and then mix two was already like close to what it eventually became, and so yeah, I totally agree. If you just get all this information and
Yeah.
you just put it in your whatever it is that you use for mixing, right? And like your template, let's say, and you pull in vocals, but there's like 50 vocal tracks, then how do you choose, or how do you work your way through all
It's
of that?
unfair. It's actually an unfair expectation because look, Jacob Hansen is one of the best mixers on the
Oh yeah,
planet. He's like, in my opinion, for metal, he's like of the in the top five. Like
yeah, he's
and
great.
like you can't. It's one of those where like it's more. He's so good that it's just a matter of taste. Really,
Yeah,
if you prefer Jacob for something or Yost for something or Jens or whatever, like with all three of those guys and a few others, like any one of them is going to do something great. So
yeah,
it's a more matter of do you want what they do or does it line up? Anyways, my point being that even with people like that who are at that level, you're asking something unreasonable if you give them that many tracks and just expect them to figure it out. Like to hear, expect them to understand what you want in your head, based off of the just you sent them the tracks, and so
yeah, yeah.
they
Obviously, he
should
also had
they
the
should just understand.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not like we just send it and
Yeah,
here you go and have fun. But so, but it's like very small nuances, I would say. And I mean, it was just a lot more. Uh, let's say it would have been more time consuming to just go back and forth
yeah, totally.
communicating than just having Jules there
Hmm.
sitting next to him and be like, hey, we also recorded this, and you know, we want this to be louder or more in the background, stuff like that. It's just
That's great.
it's just too much of information if you just, I mean, and again, it's not like mix one was bad, not at all. It was just not everything we wanted to hear, you know.
Not bad, but not right. Like not the right
Not right.
mix.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still obviously a Jacob Hansen mix. Like it's
Yeah. Yeah.
I the reason, by the way, the reason that I'm not trying to sound redundant or repetitive, but I want to make sure that people listening are not misunderstanding what we're saying,
Yeah.
because I've had people misunderstand sometimes when talking about this sort of thing. Like we're very much complimenting these mixers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah. So this is there's nothing here that's being said that's in any way bad about any of these mixers. Like these guys are amazing.
Mhm.
And even a mix one from any of them, there's a difference between a bad mix and a mix that's not quite right for the song yet. And you can't expect mix one to be right for the song. Like
No,
that's,
because these days
yeah.
Yoast is mixing and mix one is also not right. You
It's
know,
never
it's like
right with,
yeah.
man, you know what? When I used to mix, it's been a long time, but if a band just accepted mix one, I would get very paranoid. I'd get, you know what? I'd get paranoid that 6 months later, I was going to hear that they hate me and that they hated the mix and that they like, because my impression, if mix one is accepted, is either like
They
it was
didn't
like a
listen.
yeah, or they're afraid of conflict or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they're afraid to say like they're conflict averse, so they're afraid to say they don't like it, or yeah, or they really didn't listen much, and they'll listen more over the next 6 months, and they'll be
Yeah, yeah.
getting feedback from other people. But I think there there was an era where people were very afraid, or more afraid to like give proper feedback to mixers. So I knew a lot of dudes who had this problem too, who would you'd get the no mix notes, and it's like I don't feel right about. I know there needs to be mixed notes.
Call all your mixer friends. Like, did you receive the call to do this?
Yeah, actually,
And they
yeah.
say it's all good, and then they send all the files to someone
That
else.
that happened once.
Really?
Once, yeah, once it did. But
Shit.
but that's why like why I think that if for mixers who are sending a mix one, my advice actually, and on URM we give this advice a lot, is don't try to make mix one a final mix. Actually, try to just get it to where there's a direction, and
Yeah,
then give it to the artist, because they'll tell you if they like the direction or not, and then you know if you should invest in that direction. But if you have a direction and they hate it, better
yeah,
to stop it before you've gone too far with it.
yeah. True, true. Because talking about, let's say, mix one is just pretty much, do you like the tone of the guitar? Do you like the kick drum, the snare
Yeah.
drum, all of that, you know? Do you like the space of things? Um, do you like how loud or soft the vocals are compared to all the rest? You know, that's to me, at least, if I hear a first mix, that's the stuff I'm gonna listen to. I'm not too worried about all the details. Do I hear like a little flute somewhere? I
Hmm.
don't care at that point, you know, that comes later. The first thing I want to hear is, do I hear the riffs? Do I hear the vocals? Do I, you know, is it a good snare sound? Stuff like that. Does it blend? You know, if you have the let's say the metal band side of Epica, does that side connect? You know, with the
Hmm.
kick drum, the bass, the guitars, um, stuff like that. So uh, I don't expect mix one to be perfect, or mix two or three. It takes
How
as
many
long.
does it usually take?
I think. I think for this one, I would say 4 rounds, and then the fifth would have been like the last small detail, something
That's
like that.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
But you know, he's Joost is there from well, even before pre-production. He comes in, we had these writing camps, a couple of them, three of them, and he was there for at least the last one, maybe even the second one as well. Either way, he's involved from, let's say, writing the songs onwards, you know. We have a shared Dropbox, so he can always check in, and he does. Um, so by the time we're mixing, we've spent months and months together talking about what we want, talking about how he sees it, how we see it. I mean, it's not like he, and that was the difference, what I explained with Jacob Hansen. We recorded the whole thing was with Yost except for the mix,
Hmm.
right? So he didn't have all that information. He didn't spend, I mean, up until now, I actually haven't even met the guy, you know. We're friends on Instagram and that's it. And he mixed our album.
He's
But
got great hair. I'll tell you that.
yeah,
I've
I
met him.
know, I know.
I've met him in person.
Yeah.
The hair is j- just as amazing as you think it probably is. Best hair in metal, basically.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm also kind of gray, but yeah, either way. True. He has great looks.
Yeah, it's annoying, but yeah, but
Yeah.
that's so Yost was there from moment one. So probably by the time you were at mix four, like there's not that much to go over just because,
No,
yeah,
it's more
that makes
like,
sense.
yeah, mix four would be like we had some, maybe, let's say we had a spoken word part and someone doesn't like it, or someone brings up like, should we leave it there maybe a little lower? So you put it lower in, let's say, round three,
Hmm.
and it's too low. So either you have to, then you have to decide, do we keep it or not? Stuff like that. It's like the small things. Well, this is maybe a bad example because the spoken word part is not that small of a thing, but very nitpicky things that actually, if you would have just leave him the way it is, it wouldn't be a better or a worse
Yeah, it would be
album.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Th-
And
those
yeah,
things are funny because I forget, like 6 months later or a year later, do you even remember that those things were an issue?
probably not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
But you will remember the stuff you didn't mention.
yes, that's
As
true.
in, and this is the hard part, if you're so involved in the whole thing, you listen to mix, you're really focused. In the meantime, there's a whole bunch of other things going on. It's not like you're waiting for a mix to fall into your lap. Um, so we might be recording a video clip already, or doing festivals, or whatever it is, right? Um, or in our case, preparing for an orchestra show. So we're pretty busy, but you still need to take the time to really sit down and focus on that, because in the past, sometimes due to other things going on, you'd be like, oh, just listen through it and whatever, who cares eventually? Like you say, who will um, think of that in six months from now? But then I figured in the past, like if it's really something that's bothering you, you should just say it. And so that could happen until the final mix, and or beyond, where suddenly before mastering, you're like, it's just one more thing.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
totally. Well, we're just about out of time. I just have one thing I'm curious about, which is when getting ready to play these songs live, what techniques do you work on to make sure you're ready for it?
I would say stamina is definitely, it's not really a technique, but just play a lot, like
Yeah.
with the right intention, I would say, because if you play live, you have the adrenaline and stuff like that. So it's easy to cramp up if you haven't played for a long time. So it's just like dig in, and not necessarily very technical stuff, but let's say a lot of downstrokes, and
Hmm.
to get that right hand muscle going, and the left hand, usually if the right hand is doing what it should do as a guitar player, you're good to go. Left hand, in my case, always kind of follows, so I don't need to spend much time on that. It's all about right hand technique. So I would do, yeah, just make sure that I know the solos and the hard parts and take those. And um, yeah, I don't know. We just had last Monday, we had our first rehearsal for the tours that are coming up, and it's the first one and the last one. Again, we're based in
Yeah.
four different countries, so
Yeah.
that's not
You can
very easy for
can
us.
only do. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but either way, so
Yeah.
it's kind of it was a way of measuring how much I still have to practice, and I still have quite some work to do, let's say. But yeah, and there you kind of find out, okay, I need to work on this and that. And it's usually like the little things that are odd. Like uh I'm not sure. Are you a guitar player? I
Hmm.
guess. Yeah. So I play a lot of, I start with upstrokes quite a lot of times instead of a downstroke. And but then I sometimes switch for certain riffs. I switch back to downstroke on the first beat. and those switches usually are things that over time I don't have to think about it anymore. But in the beginning, if you have new songs and you need to make that switch, because it's a way of either you do a upward pick slant or a
Yeah.
downward pick slant, and I can do both. So if I would start wrong, it might fuck me up in a way. But so that's the things that I kind of need to, similar to how you drive a car with gear, you know, it takes a lot of time to get accustomed to it, but now you don't think about it anymore.
When you
And
start with
that's,
upward pick slant,
yeah.
is it, are you doing that because playing the part as a whole makes more sense? Like, is it a strategic thing for laying out the whole part?
Well, naturally, I am an upward pick slanter. So that is very natural to
Got
me.
it.
But in every book out there, and you know, I never really, I got classic, I'm a trained classical guitar player, but it took me what was it, 18 years to get my first electric guitar
Hmm.
lesson. So in every book, it would say, start with a downstroke, you know. So I would try that, but it would always fuck me up. Like, why? And it didn't work. And I mean, not always. I play a lot of downstrokes on the first beat, but if it's really fast and complicated, I would just at some point think, you know, if I do it the other way around, it's way easier. The same with sweep picking, you know, the way back for me is very, very easy, whereas most guitar players would say the way down is easier with
Yes.
the downstrokes, yeah. And for me, that's the opposite thing. Um, so because of that, throughout the years, I kind of went my own way, and you know, that's why a lot of things, not even strategically or whatever, it's just like this feels natural to me.
Hmm.
And so it's not that I consciously think about it. Um, and maybe that's what I need to practice to kind of see what am I doing here exactly. And then you can think of it and make sure that it's in your system. And then, because in a studio environment, although for this album we played live as a three piece, you know, we didn't record separately. So guitars, bass, drums were recorded at the same time. Um, so you kind of already drill your way into the songs,
Hmm.
but then to play it live, I mean, it's been almost a year since we recorded, so I kind of have to start all over again. But yeah, so that's the stuff. And over the last couple of years, I really forced myself to change my slanting position to downward pick slanting. Because I was so fed up with not being able to, let's say, Malmsteen is probably the best example of a downward pick slanter.
Hmm.
It's all exclusively downward. So he's not switching, and that was like a focus point. Okay, let's play some Malmsteen and get his system in my hands, let's say. So now I can just switch back and forth, and whatever works best. Which is also cool because now on the new album, I kind of incorporated a couple of those things. Not that it sounds different than what we did before or anything like that. It's just like how you sometimes I would do down, down, up, stuff like that instead of alternate picking or, you know, just
It
I
all sounds
learned.
different, and it all feels and sounds different.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it does. But in the grand scheme of things with a metal band and orchestration and all of that, I would argue that it doesn't make that much of a difference if it's just some sort of, I'm not talking about a solo, you know, that's obviously right there, but if it's just some small part of a riff, you wouldn't really hear that, oh, I'm doing down, down, up instead of down, up, down, you know. But
No,
yeah,
no.
that kind of stuff.
The only thing that might make a difference is then this depends on the player. If you're super consistent, no one will be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
But some people are more down, like down heavy, I guess, where they go to alternate. Their upstrokes are not. It's not that they're like sound uneven, but it's not even enough.
Yeah,
But
I know what you
but
mean.
if if your ups and downs are very consistent, then yeah, then especially when there's a lot of other stuff going on and all you can hear is like the eighth notes, the pulse of the eighth notes from the guitar, the consistency matters
Yeah, yeah,
even more, I think,
yeah.
to pop through. But I know a lot of players who are downward pick slanters, who now work on upstrokes as a part of their routine, just for the consistency.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I've been playing for
Mm.
such a long time, and then suddenly I feel the need to change my picking hand position, during the whole process, because that
Yeah,
took me months. Like the first days when I forced myself to do downward, I cramped up. My thumb would really hurt,
yeah,
and then you're like, why am I doing this? Because I'm not that bad, am I? Like maybe I just keep doing what I do now and it's fine. But it's like, yeah, I just wanted to challenge myself and to learn something different and just to be more free of changing up the way I approach a guitar string, let's say. And yeah, so far so good.
yeah. That makes sense. Well, Isaac, thank you very much for taking the time to hang out. It's been a pleasure meeting you, a pleasure talking to you, and good luck with the release of the album. I know it came out last Friday. Just good
Yeah.
luck with the album cycle.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was lovely to talk to you. I don't believe it's already an hour already
Yeah,
passed.
goes fast. Goes
Yeah,
fast.
man. Cool.
Oh,
Nice.
awesome, man. Have a good one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.